Good morning, y'all, from Twin Oaks Family Farm. Hey, it's February 4th, 2025, and we wanted to show y'all the finished miniature chicken coop. I guess it's not a miniature chicken coop, but to us it kind of seems like a miniature coop. It's an 8-foot by 8-foot chicken coop shed. As you can see, kind of built on a greenhouse design. So that shed in the screen there with the tan siding is actually the set of hen houses that we've currently been having our egg production hens stay in, and we're kind of needing to shift our flocks around where their housing is. So we were trying to utilize some open area that we have, and also trying to make sure that we get all of our laying hens in basically the same area. So we will take a look at the outside of it, talk a little bit about the build. While we're inside, I wanted to show y'all this. We did end up deciding to secure hardware mesh or hardware panel with the 1/2-inch squares down at the ground level, and so it's throughout the ground level underneath all of this bedding material, and it's overlapped and fastened together, and then it's returned up the sides and fastened into the sides too. We're also trying these nesting corners simply because we observed it with a group of about 14 hens and found that they actually liked it quite well and used it, and the eggs came out clean and in good condition and not cracked, not blemished. So we're trying it in here as well. We also do not have their finalized water and feeder set up in here, but we'll get that. We wouldn't have got them a flock block in here. Let's take a look at it from the outside. This is one of the variety of Morans we have, and there's Morticia and Elvira. In fact, this one's Elvira, and that one's Morticia. Okay, so basically the little 8x8 coop is finished. We're still going to paint the bottom half, the T111 siding, when the weather is warmer and temperatures that will allow the paint to dry and cure well. And then we're also going to put on some metal corner trim on each corner, from the bottom of the wall up to the top of it, right under the soffit. The ridge cap is still extending out over the ends, so we will trim that back, and then we'll also cut a chicken door in back here, about in the middle of this backside. So at the moment, the plan is for the chicken door to just be a manual thing that we come out here and open and close on our own. Not electric, not set up to be solar, not running on a battery or running on a timer. And kind of long range, the goal is maybe to have several sheds like this one or similar to this one, kind of set up here together, and to have a significant area fenced around it that could possibly even be broken up into little paddocks, and to be able to allow the chickens basically to be outdoors all day, daytimes, and then to go in through their chicken door into their own shed for overnight. And then we have the man door on the opposite side. So actually the chicken door would lead into chicken run area, and the man door would go into the coop, and then we'd have a separate gate out in the chicken run area. And the thought with the chicken run area is it's not going to be a covered and closed area. It's going to be a fenced area with some room, and hopefully be able to kind of separate it into paddocks for two reasons: trying to keep subgroups of the flock separated, and trying to keep them on fresh grass. So there's actually kind of a formula and a ratio for how many chickens to how much grassy area. So we're researching that in order to not overwhelm the vegetation on a surface, and keep them actually foraging on grass, we can kind of plan for how much space do we actually need to do that, how many chickens will it support. So we're researching that as we learn about it. We're going to be happy to share it with you. So I'm going to go around the building and tell you about some of the material. I'm not as good with the lumber sizes, so at some point we'll probably get my husband to review the lumber sizes that are in the building. And if anybody does want the material list, we're happy to give it to you. We'll just put it in a video or in comments if you ask, and share the material list with you. But this is it, like I said, an 8 foot by 8 foot. So we have 22 chickens in it currently. If the chickens only had this room, and say you were going to just put an enclosed covered run with it, and this was it, I probably wouldn't put 22 chickens in it. I would probably max it out at 16. You might also design the interior differently. Maybe you want a different watering approach, feeding approach, nest box approach, and that's awesome. But I still think for the amount of floor space, if they weren't going to have significant roaming area during the day, the 8 foot by 8 foot would max out at about 16 birds, because that would equate to about 4 square foot per bird stocking density inside the coop. And really, we have found that's a great comfort zone for our hens. That's a great comfort zone for us when we need to be in the coop working around them. And it's a great stocking density that doesn't overwhelm the hygiene that you can support in that size of coop. So we're going to go with the 22. Because our intention is to let them out. Now, another thing we're doing, and I haven't read that you need to do this, haven't been told you need to do this, we're just thinking it seems logical, is we are letting the birds stay in there like a 48-hour time span before we let them out to free range. We want them to really establish and get the imprint that this is where we want them to home to, like in the evening when it gets dusk and we need them to go back to the coop. We want them to come here, and we want it to imprint on these hens that this is where we want the eggs laid, because there's a lot of cover out there that they can get to. We don't want them to go and put a clutch of eggs out there somewhere and then we can't find them, because we want every egg, because we have an egg sales business as part of our small poultry operation where we need all the eggs every day. This is a close-up example of that 1/2 inch mesh that is actually down sunk under the bedding material of the building, and it's actually sunk a good ways, because like on this side you can see here is the top of these boards at the bottom of the wall, and so that mesh is coming like clear up to here from the ground. And so as we go around the building, we didn't have to have as much support at the bottom of the wall, because we wanted the building level and the ground isn't level, so we had to, put more leveling material back here. But that mesh like this returns clear up the side of these bottom boards. So there is framing lumber at the bottom. So like this width board goes all the way around the bottom. And if you had perfectly level ground, that's all you'd need. But back here, there actually is, let me see if we can find it where y'all can see that. So like on this side, okay. So there's a board here, framing board under here that goes all the way around the bottom of the building. This does not. There's one of these on this side and the other side that we were just at. But on this side, we didn't need that board. So the bottom of the building is actually here, and this is a gap that's filled in. But again, we have that hardware mesh under it. But this siding material is T111. We did a trim here that's modified from a J channel. We probably would not repeat this step. We would go ahead and find, there's actual metal trim that returns up and makes a ledge and returns down like a drip edge. We would actually find that. We wouldn't repeat this J channel again. This is a polycarbonate corrugated panel. Up there is vented soffit and F channel behind it, and then on the front is fascia, and then on the top is just galvanized roofing metal. And we can't see it from here, you can see where it extends at the ends, which needs to be trimmed back flush with the ends. That's also just a galvanized metal ridge cap, okay? So basically that's all that went into the building. And then we have that hardware mesh, like you see it as a temporary fence there, and you saw it inside. We have it down there, and the door was salvaged and repurposed. The latch and the chain was salvaged and repurposed. We may change this setup. This is actually a little bit difficult to work with. And if your hands are sore, see, like even there now, I'm having a struggle getting it with one hand. Yeah, so I can get it. It takes me 2 hands usually. My hand's getting cold. So we may change that just for ease of use. And we modified some of that J channel around the door. We also had the hinges. So cost so far on this, to give you an idea what it cost, my hand is getting cold. It's about 40 degrees, but it's getting cold. The framing lumber and all the material that is on the walls and for the framing was $922.11. So that included the lumber and the siding and the trim and the screws, and $922.11. And then the roll of hardware mesh, which we use most of it inside there, it was probably, it's this height, so I don't know, that may be about 3 foot tall. It was probably about a 50-foot roll, and it was $65. So that's the money we actually have in the coop, is $922.11 and $65. And I told you the door was salvaged and it's hardware, and actually the roof metal and the ridge cap was also salvaged and repurposed. So that would add cost if you had to buy it. We figured up it took about 40 man hours to build. A lot of that time was used up actually in digging a little bit into frozen ground to level the building. We had to cut into it, into the ground on the north end here, and it was frozen. So that took more time than it would have if the ground had not been frozen. But you could plan on, if you're an experienced builder, confident about what you're doing, already have the power tools, you could plan on probably about 40 hours in building something like that. 40 hours or less, because if conditions are great, it's not going to take you the 40 hours. So for now, we're also going to we have some more of that hardware mesh. We bought another roll of it that's like 100 feet. So we're also going to put some more, like from the edge of where this vegetation is growing up tall, down through here where I'm standing, and run it into some of this brushy brambles down here. And so for now, we're just going to try to make like a temporary containment that's not necessarily going to force the birds to stay right here, but it's certainly going to encourage them to stay right here, because there's plenty of vegetation for them and they won't have to go beyond the temporary fence line for foraging. Like I said, at this point, the main thing I'm kind of concerned about with that is, are they going to go into all that cover and lay their clutches of eggs there instead of where we want them? So some things in farming and in business and in life, you just have to try it out, and time will tell, and you wait and see. But we may go ahead and put like 2 nest boxes in here in the corner opposite the door. So if there would be some birds that prefer the nest boxes to the nesting corners, they can do that. We want to get them outside. This is a pretty confined area for 22 birds. So we don't want to push the envelope real far on confining them in there. But like I said, trying to give a little bit of a time span where they go through a couple of night-day cycles, getting this imprinted on them that this is home, and get a couple night day cycles where these hens actually lay their eggs in there. So far so good. Yesterday was their first day in there, and we got 18 eggs from, at that time there was just 21 hens in there, so 18 eggs out of 21 hens. And then we added the 22nd hen because she's one that's really agile, and she left the hen house area. She was actually just right over here. It was the white leghorn, and I was able to walk up and catch her just out here in the open, because there's kind of a little bit of a trick. If you can get up close enough to a chicken to lay your palm of your hand flat into their back gently between their wings, especially if they're in a stage of life where they're active layers, when you do that, it triggers like the mating response to the rooster, actually. So when you put the flat of your hand on their back, kind of between their wings, just below where the wings meet, they'll actually demonstrate the squat behavior. So they'll kind of squat and they'll kind of pause, and it's almost like a freeze motion. And so I did that and just kind of gently held her to the ground level, and then I picked her up, you know, with a hand around her side, gently holding each wing down to her side, and then you can carry them real easily. So I actually caught a leghorn, amazingly enough, right out here in the open, and put her in here. But they're on about their second day now. So we're gonna try to get them through today and overnight tonight. And this evening they're gonna get the second stretch of fence up, and they'll have this obvious foraging area that we can let them out in. Sand's getting cold now. We're gonna hope they stay in that, and then we'll be hopefully able to let them out every day. So I may also ask them, we would rather them go out a chicken door than our man door, because there's actually a step to here. You've got to step over to get in there. So we could put a ramp there, and they could jump it, but I would rather them identify with going out their chicken door. So I'm going to talk to the guys about that for this evening too. When they run the stretch of fence, could they please cut in a chicken door for the gals? So we'll step back in and take a look at them again before we cut the video. Thanks for hanging out with me. It's kind of a lengthy review of the building, but we appreciate y'all joining us, and really excited about this coop. When we're looking at the chickens, I'll give you the lowdown on how we moved them. So thanks y'all. And like I said, if you want to know the building materials, just put it in the comments and let me know. And it did cost almost right at $1,000, especially if we'd had to buy a door and hardware and the roof metal. It certainly would have been over $1,000, and we don't have the money amount on the corner trim yet, but you know, we're buying corner trim, so that will add. So I'd say we will be right at $1,000, and then we'd have had more if we had to buy the roof metal, ridge cap, and door and hardware. So like I said, I would not opt to keep 22 hens in here if they had to be totally confined into this building. I would definitely shrink that down to about 16 hens, but they are going to be able to go outside, so that's going to work out just fine. We are going to put a different feeder in here. We really don't want them standing in it, but that's just for right now. We're going to get a different feeder in here that's like the ones we use for our flocks. Going to put a different water in here. Right now we just have a water bucket. We're putting fresh in here twice a day. They really only drink about half of that in 12 hours, so it's plenty. And we'll be getting things finished up to let them all get outside. So I would like to, like I said, maybe in the back corner, in addition to the nesting corners, like we're encouraging there, I think I would like to probably in this corner put a couple of nest boxes. So they'll have the option of the nest boxes or the nesting corners. We got 4 eggs out of that corner this morning. And we are going to put some bars just kind of spanning from the nesting corner pieces to give them places to perch. And when they can get outside, we'll be able to augment with other supplementation for that. But finishing up, how did we move them? We did use livestock crates, and the livestock crates with the hens will easily hold 8 to 12 birds most of the time. So we used our livestock crates, and we actually waited until after nightfall, and we cut the lights in their chicken houses, and we simply just by hand caught the hens gently and placed them into the livestock crates and carried the livestock crates over here to their new housing and quietly unpacked them from the livestock crates one at a time and set them into the housing, all under nightfall. So then that does a couple things for you. First of all, they don't see well in the dark, so they're much easier to catch with much less stress, much less chasing, no chasing, because they're not going to run from you if they don't see you coming. So easier to catch, really less stress on them because you're not chasing them around. But also what it allowed us to do was they just, woke up in their new place and could see that, okay, this is a new home. This is where I'm staying. And also it allowed us to take 14 hens from one place and to take the rest of the hens from a couple of other hen houses and put them all in here at the same time under nightfall. So then when they woke up the next morning, this whole group was all in here together. And so yes, there's still going to be a little bit of pecking order dynamic. I can tell you that here, like this is one of the black copper Morans, and there's another black copper Moran like her right here at the feeder actually. So they are both way high up the pecking order. And so even in this mixed group, they establish themselves as sort of top hens. And below them, pecking order wise, I would say is Morticia and Elvira. And then the 14 hens that were already a group together but are new here to our place, they are going to, fall in line as the ones lower on the pecking order. So they're all working it out. But putting them all in here at the same time, basically under cover of nightfall, and then when they woke up, it really took the edge off of them establishing that flock dynamic. Because when day broke, it was like, oh, we're a flock. So they're still going to work out some details, but it helped eliminate that angst and tension that comes from mixing different groups of chickens together. Because oftentimes that can be really, really brutal when you just take different groups of chickens and just like throw them together. So we are not going to have electric light out here. We're hoping that having basically like the greenhouse sides is going to help us filter a lot of natural daylight in here and help with their rhythm of egg laying and with the seasonal rhythm of egg laying. So if you have any questions about how we moved them or why we chose to put these birds in here, feel free to let us know. And before we wrap the video, we'll just take a peek at the birds that we have left here other than this group. And we rehomed about 11 of our oldest egg production birds yesterday to some folks that were looking for some egg layers. And when I say oldest, our oldest that we rehomed were like 3-year-old hens. So still young enough to be able to lay eggs for a while, but old enough that if you're raising hens for commercial egg sales, old enough that you want to go ahead and rehome those birds. So we like to keep them between, we'll start them when they're hatchlings if we choose to start them that way, but we like to keep them between point of lay and 2.5 years old in our egg production flocks. Okay, so 22 gals out in the building we just looked at, and there's about 13 hens left in this building. Left us an egg this morning to gather. So we're actually inside the west end of the hen house that we could see from the new little coop. And we're going to move these hens, most of them, to the other end of this little coop. So we'll go see the chickens that are over there. Okay, and there's 22 hens in this end of this coop. Most all of these are production reds. In fact, all of them are production reds except that one. She loves to perch up there. So they've left some eggs for us this morning. So these are all in our egg production flock. And of those 13 that we have over in the other end, we'll move probably about 9 of them over here so that we'll have most of our younger egg production hens here and most of our older egg production hens out in the new coop. And then we will actually have something planned for the other end of that shed, this hen house shed that we're in. So what we have planned for the west end of that little building is moving Rhode Island red pullets into it. So this is a trio from that group. We have about 40 of these Rhode Island reds that will be approaching the point of lay soon. They are almost 4 months old now, and we want to move them out of the building they're currently in, and we'll put them up there, and we'll leave about 4 of those older hens to kind of show them the ropes of the nest boxes and to kind of show them the ropes of acclimating to that pen and to acclimating from pullets to laying hens. So when this group of birds goes into our egg production flock, we may evaluate through the rest of the birds and go ahead and rehome some of them at that point as well. We have kept about 60 egg production hens during 2025. We may work up to about 100 egg production hens in the egg production program. So you're constantly needing to manage for the age of the hens that you have in your flock and adding in replacement hens and moving out hens that are approaching, for us, about 3 years old is when we're ready to retire them from our egg production program. And it's become pretty timely that we need to get those Rhode Island reds that we just looked at moved, because this was the building we were just in. This is actually our meat bird production barn, so we truly need to get it totally empty of birds and a total clean out in it, because we will have meat birds moving in March 12th here. So we're looking forward to that. This building was designed specifically for raising meat birds in it. It's actually sized for 450 Cornish rock cross meat chickens at finish. It's 30 foot by 30 foot, so a floor space in the main part there, so 900 square feet. So for meat birds, we allow 2 square foot per bird stocking density, whereas we talked about earlier for these egg production chickens, ideal 4 square foot per bird is really a comfort level for egg production birds for their stocking density within their coop. And in addition to that, it's great if you can get them out of doors. But we can raise our meat birds in confinement start to finish. Even though it's in confinement, it can be made into like an open air setup, because in this building we can open doors all the way around it. But we can also, keeping them in, keep them safe from predators, totally safe from predators. And with meat birds, the Cornish rock cross variety, the short in stature and stocky, stout, white feathered birds, they can be raised for meat production from start to finish in 6 weeks. So we'll be putting them in this building come March 12th. So we're shifting all the egg birds to get them all in one place in another area.